I looked at 25 years of being on many staffs in the NFL. I looked at sitting around that dinner table with his daddy, Marty Schottenheimer, and I know what osmosis does, and it doesn't fall far from the tree.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Cowboys! Hollywood and Vining. All right, the One Star Cowboys podcast is back because the season is officially over, and I know it stinks. The Eagles are your Super Bowl champions. For our Cowboys fans listening, probably not thrilled about that. I want to start off with this one. Is there anything that you could take away from not only Sunday's victory for the Eagles, but the Eagles in general that might change how you might look at free agency or the draft? We'll start with you, John.
I mean, it didn't take the Eagles to do what they've done in the last month or so for me to think that the Cowboys need to be more aggressive in free agency or via trades. So this should just solidify it, because I really look at it just from the perspective of my time covering the Cowboys. There's a Romo era, and then now we're in the Dak era. Well, in that Dak era, the Eagles have gone to the Super Bowl 3 times, and there's just maybe less than a handful of guys that are even left from that first one. And the way that they've been able to swing and miss on Carson Wentz, win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles, switch the team all around, get back to 2 more, and then win one. It just shows you. I mean, Howie Roseman might be the best GM in all of sports. He's obviously, it's not just being aggressive. He's obviously hit on a lot of these. There's misses, but there's not many. He's been very, very good, whether it be the draft, trades, free agency. And so that would be my number one biggest takeaway off watching that Super Bowl as it compares to the Cowboys. Number 2 for me would be, this would be a positive for the Cowboys. If you do put the right players around Dak Prescott, he can win a Super Bowl. When I was watching that game, I thought about that multiple times for several different teams. Cowboys, 49ers with Brock Purdy, and then certainly the Lions with Jared Goff. If Jalen Hurts can get that done with that group around him, that opens the door for a lot of other people. And the reason why I say it, and this isn't a slight to Jalen Hurts, this is just that we've moved into a league where it just seems like, well, if you don't have Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, well, good luck. You're not going to, if your guy doesn't raise himself to that elite level. No, if your guy is just real solid and you have good pieces around them, they can get it done too, to the tune of not even winning a close game, destroying a team that does have one of those generational quarterbacks. And so that shows you that if you do spend the money, you do make the right investments around these guys, you don't have to put it all on that quarterback. And then when it's not all on him and he just has to do a handful of plays here and there, Dak's capable of doing that. Purdy's capable, Goff, whatever, go down the line. And that was just another example watching that game. I get it. Jalen Hurts got MVP. It's an MVP quarterback award. I get all that. The MVP of that game was most certainly, if it was one person, it was Vic Fangio. If it was one unit, it was the Eagles defensive line. And then 3rd or 4th might be Jalen Hurts. But those were probably the 2 biggest Cowboys takeaways I had from the game.
Yeah, for me, similar takeaways, but then if I'm going to get more specific on one thing, because I'm also doing kind of like the first mock draft for us right now, and I'm seeing how much I've kind of become biased towards the trenches, like the offensive line and defensive line of the Eagles. I mean, John mentioned the defensive line, but the offensive line as well. The way that they paved the way for Saquon all season, the way they protected Jalen Hurts. I mean, look, Spagnuolo is great, and it takes nothing away from his greatness in terms of the way he blitzes and the chances he takes and all that. But that's what it takes to break through against that Eagles offensive line. And then defensively, it was absolutely a clinic to not blitz a single time and get that kind of pressure on Patrick Mahomes. I know the Chiefs offensive line is not exactly top notch, but still, that was an incredible performance. So for me, all the stuff John said, but more even another specific layer to that is just you have to build from the inside out. You have to make sure you have everything squared away up on the offensive line and the defensive line.
And when you look at their defensive line, it's not even like it was, well, this is like that Rams defensive line, where you had Donald and Von Miller. No, it wasn't. There's nothing on that defensive line where you're like, well, good luck getting any of those guys unless you have a top 10 pick. It wasn't like that at all. Now they're really solid across the board, but their offensive line is doable. It is doable to build it. Now, of course, Jalen Carter is a freak. That's the key to all of this. But you can have a freak in a different position and then have other guys step up. And I do think that the Cowboys were trending in that direction 2 years ago when they, went into that playoff game against Green Bay. And your second line of defense was Dante Fowler, was Dorrance Armstrong. And you did kind of have some pieces there where I do think that you could be competitive, but to get to that point, you had to be kind of a little bit more aggressive than you normally are. I mean, that offseason, they made moves to go get Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. And so what's kind of fascinating about the Cowboys is it's just like with the Eagles, what they're doing before, like you'll know over the next 6 months what the Eagles are doing. The Cowboys will be the same way. You'll know if we'll see by their moves, how committed they are to catching the Eagles. My last take on all of that, and I'll just send it back to you on this one, KT, is I also, while the Eagles team looks like it's as good as anybody in the NFL and is set up as good as anybody for the next 5 years, absolutely do not disagree. But anybody that wants to act like they're the boogeyman, I'll just tell you this right now. Cowboys, Niners, Lions, let the Eagles have some of those injuries. Let's see what happens. You just take away Saquon Barkley. You just take away Jalen Carter. All of a sudden, they're still one of the best teams in the NFL. I'm not saying that they're not. But that team, what were they without? Kobe Dean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There is something about the NFL that it's, there is a war of attrition. Obviously, we're not going to, I don't think we will get into too much NBA, but there's a lot of that going on in the league too, where if you can be healthy, that's a big part of it too. If you tell me the Niners are as healthy as the Eagles were all season, the Niners are certainly in the playoffs. Cowboys, I still don't know because the way things were going. Obviously, the Lions would have been even better than they were, but there's a little bit of they were pretty fortunate too that they didn't. I mean, Jalen Hurts was banged up. But once the playoffs started, you started seeing the Jalen Hurts that didn't look like he was. Patrick Mahomes looked far more banged up than Jalen Hurts did if you just go off of the Super Bowl at that point in the season, And so I wouldn't just go ahead and just pencil them in. Well, there's 3 Super Bowls for those guys. All right, well, we'll see.
I think, KT, just one other thing, because I tweeted it during the game as well. Dak doesn't have those wheels that Jalen Hurts does. You can win with Dak for sure. I think you can win a Super Bowl. Everything John said stands true. But, man, those wheels that Jalen had a couple of times when he ran up the middle, that was Dak from 5 years ago. That isn't there anymore.
And I'm glad you brought that up because there are people that if you didn't really pay attention to the game, you might look at the box score and you'll find keys 70-some yards, touchdown. Oh, that Jalen Hurts big on the run game. If you guys watched the whole game, can you just tell me, do you think that was needed? That's icing on the cake. They still win by 20 without that. It wasn't oh my God, those big plays with the wheels, man. Jeez. Yeah. If they didn't have those, what would have happened? They win by 20? I mean, that's what I'm saying. So when I compare it to Dak, I'm not saying it's certainly not the wheels. And obviously Brock Purdy is more mobile at this point too. But Jared Goff isn't mobile either. I'm saying from the standpoint of they can sit there and completely focus on line one, no question about it, watching that game was we will not let Saquon Barkley go off. We will not let that happen. And so when that's the case, it's Jalen Hurts, you're going to have to make 4 or 5 big-time throws, and he did. But that defense was so dominant that even when he threw the bad interception, where typically you'd be oh, this is not a good sign, to do this right here, everything was going in your direction. You throw this bad pick, you could have added more points on the board. It didn't matter. It didn't matter because your defense was so good that it was never going to be the offense better make some plays right now. The offense needed to make 4 or 5 plays. And to Jalen Hurts' credit, he made them.
And I realize free agency happens before the draft, and maybe we're this fan base maybe looks at that a little more, maybe jumps ahead to the draft because we sit out free agency so much or aren't that active in free agency. But, one of my takeaways was let's go ahead and put the drafting a running back in the first round to the side here, and let's really focus in on what we need to do. And I'm not sure that was a thought of mine that I just had Sunday. I've been thinking that already. But, we really do need to get better on the offensive line or the defensive line, no matter what it is. And this is a draft where it is kind of set up. Do what you do with your draft board and all that stuff. And if there's an exemption or something like that happens to be there at 12, then okay, take the player. But I just kind of I'm in the boat of let's go ahead and beef up here on the defensive line. But also, though, we're going to find out a lot of things in free agency. So they're able to keep Osa. I know Saad's got a good piece up from, I think it was last week or maybe it's earlier. Well, yeah, it was last week, just kind of the Cowboys free agent tiers and things like that. that you can go check out on The Athletic. But I think that's something that it kind of made me go, okay, I know Genty's going to be talked about a ton over the next 2 months. I'm kind of okay just putting that in the recycle bin for now. And,
I got to stop you there, because if they don't do anything in free agency, you absolutely have to consider Genty. And the reason why I say that is, again, if you want to compare it to the Eagles, or heck, even compare it to Kansas City, one of the big things about Kansas City all year long for me is, the offensive line was never a strength, but they also didn't have the playmakers around Patrick Mahomes that they really needed. Eagles clearly do. I mean, they have major investments at 2 receiver spots and obviously at running back. The Cowboys really only have one impactful guy that really changes the game on offense. They need somebody else. And so if you don't do anything via trade, via free agency, and you're just going to go with a running back you take in maybe the 2nd or 3rd round, hey, maybe you roll the dice and it ends up being a guy that outperforms his draft slot. But I just think that there has to be at least one more major impact weapon added to this offense for next season. And if they don't do it in free agency or via trade, then Genty is probably, unless you really like a wide receiver at 12 that falls to you. But I just don't think you can completely dismiss wide receiver or running back at 12.
Yeah, and I'm not in love. And there's another piece, I think. This is Assad's work, too. I read it, so I should know. But the piece on just, Assad, a bunch of names to consider. And it's a good look if you're, getting excited for the draft this time of year. And just 10 names that, could be there round one. And because I was thinking also about like how, cornerback could be a sneaky problem for this team with some of the injuries they've had. So there's a lot to think about, and we'll have plenty of time to cover all that. The coaching staff has been filled out. And I got to say, were you guys as surprised as I am with kind of how varied it's been? I mean, there's still a lot of names of people who are here, but it does also feel like kind of reached out and done a few things, getting some maybe names that you might not typically expect the Cowboys to go get. What have your thoughts been on how they filled out the coaching staff?
I mean, it's fine. I see people on Twitter getting excited about certain names and that. And I mean, it's fine. I mean, it could be good. I just don't think there's enough track record to know, because it's not like they're adding a Vic Fangio where you're like, well, no, there's this track record of him calling NFL defenses. Like there's a lot of, this guy did this in college, or this guy did this for this offensive line, or this guy was okay here. But there's just a lot, like it goes all the way up to the top to the head coach. There's just a lot of unknowns. We really won't know. I mean, there'll be like little things along the way, we'll see at OTAs, mini camp, and then into training camp. But I just really don't think that you'll really know until at least getting into the preseason games and things like that. So now, of course, we'll talk about this stuff and people will hype things up and things like that. But like, there's just a lot of unknowns with the coaching staff, far more than there have been for a while here in Dallas. And so it could be a good thing. Maybe that's what they needed, a fresh start, some different, minds from outside of not just the pros, but obviously some major college guys as well. So it could be good. I just don't know that you can definitively say one way or the other, because we just don't know what their track records are in those roles in the National Football League.
Yeah, I think a couple of takeaways for me was defensively, it's Eberflus and everything that he has going on there. But offensively, Clayton Adams is kind of, as a lot of people read between the lines, is an emphasis on the run game and making sure the running game picks up a little bit. And then Todd Archer reported recently that Steve Shimko is going to be the quarterback's coach, which I find kind of interesting as well, because to me, it's one of those things that was very prevalent in the Schottenheimer press conference, was how they're talking about how they're trying to thread the line between something different, but also keeping some stuff the same. So Shimko was here last year as like an assistant on the offensive staff and now Schottenheimer kind of retains him. So it's kind of that comfort for Dak, where his quarterback coach was already in the building, his offensive or his head coach was already in the building. But the offensive coordinator is coming from outside and might help with the run game. So offensively, it's just, if you're reading between the lines a little bit, it is that that message that they had during the press conference of a little bit of continuity with Schottenheimer and the quarterback coach, but also bringing something in to help the offense, to help the run game on the offense. So that's the offensive staff is kind of where I saw that the most.
So really, to be honest with you, if you just rewind this like a month, and we were talking about what we think the coaching staff will be to where we sit today, I mean, let's just address the most obvious one. And if you don't think this is the obvious one, you either don't know what you're talking about or you're lying to yourself. The biggest thing on their coaching staff is that Jason Witten isn't on it. That's the biggest story, because that would seem like a foregone conclusion that, oh, well, this Schottenheimer hire is just so that Jerry can get his guy on the staff. And the fact that he isn't, that to me is way bigger than any like Ken Dorsey being a passing game analyst. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the biggest notable thing, that it was like, wait, I thought we all just assumed this was going to be a Jerry move to get Witten on staff, and he didn't. So to me, that's probably the biggest one.
How is there not a fire? There's so much smoke there.
I don't know, man. There's a part of me that wonders if maybe Witten didn't really want to get in right now. Maybe there's still some stuff with, there's a little bit of, I know some people don't believe this, but I do think that I do believe Deion when he talks about wanting to coach his kids and be around them and stuff like that. And that you only get that, Zach Martin was doing the rounds last week, Radio Row stuff and all that. And, where he's at in his age and having young kids and things like that, that time's only going to come around once. I mean, I could see that the family side of it being like, hey, I got plenty of time to be a coach down the line. Let me spend some more time with my family. He's not going to say this publicly, but he's got to think, I'm Jason Witten. I'll get on somebody's staff if I really want to get on somebody's staff, if I want to do this. So I think that would probably be part of it too. I just find it very hard to believe that Jason Witten was 100% absolutely dead set. I need to be on this Cowboys coaching staff. And the Cowboys were like, no, we're good. Like, I find that one hard to believe. It could be true, but I find it hard to believe.
Yeah, and I also think from Jerry's standpoint and the Cowboys standpoint, not having him on the initial, like, I would be absolutely shocked. Well, I guess shock has a different meaning in Dallas sports these days, but I would be shocked if Brian Schottenheimer was a one and done coach. So Schottenheimer is not here for just 1 year. So if Witten joins the staff at some point during Schottenheimer's tenure, he's still that still puts him on track to be Jerry's next guy on the staff. He doesn't have to be here for all 2, 3, 4 years of Schottenheimer in order to be the next guy. So I could still see that being an addition later on.
And you still can't even rule out the whole side of, while we sit here and say, well, it only makes sense if, whenever people bring up Dan Campbell, look how long he's been an assistant before he got to be a head coach. Just because we say that, it's not like there's any rule in place. Like, it's not like Jerry wouldn't, you can't just put it past Jerry to be just like 3 years from now, just like, no, Jason's the head coach right now, and he has no coaching experience in the NFL. I mean, we can't rule that out. It doesn't seem like a great plan to go the somewhat Jeff Saturday route, even though it's not, that wouldn't be apples to apples, but you know what I'm saying? Without any coach, Yuki could still do it.
Did he already do his man of the year press conference availability thing?
He did availability recently. I don't know if I think it might've been I don't know if it was for that award, but yeah, he did one recently, and I think he did talk about not wanting to be, or why he wasn't. But I didn't see the full quote, but I did see that he was interviewed recently.
He also feels like he's also a guy who you just haven't heard much about too. Like, you can coach the high school team, but unless you're living there and or in the district, I kind of really don't know much about what's been going on with him. So, but it was wild because I think everyone was hearing stuff, and doesn't happen. All right. Coaching staff is set, so that's good for the most part. Kellen Moore, as we just kind of finish, crossing our T's and dotting our I's, it's official. He's the head coach of the Saints, or at least he's finalizing that deal today. Kind of knew that was coming. Feels like a garbage situation, if we're being honest. You guys surprised McCarthy's taking the year off?
I mean, if he didn't have really legitimate interest.
Think he didn't want the Saints job?
I mean, maybe he did, but maybe they made it pretty clear that they were going in another direction. I mean, they've been kind of in a holding pattern, making it seem like that Kellen was pretty high on their list for a while now. So, and then the Bears Ben Johnson thing seems like that's been locked up for a while too. So, it could be one of those things where maybe there wasn't as much interest in him as maybe he was hoping. And he's like, all right, that's fine. This coaching business is so crazy that there's obviously going to be another 6-7 jobs open next year. Let me take a step back and reevaluate some things. But I would say for him, just my time being around him not coaching, I bet you doesn't bother him as much right now as the fact of some of his assistants not having jobs somewhere else, because I know he feels like a big responsibility to those guys and stuff like that. And obviously this new staff, other than Lunda Wells, obviously Schottenheimer, there's not really a lot of keeping a lot of guys that were on the previous staff, and several have gotten jobs elsewhere, but not all of them.
Yeah, and I think KT, you mentioned Kellen Moore and McCarthy with the Saints, and it's in relation to the Saints, and I just, in either one of those situations, I guess there would be a level of surprise for me for wanting the Saints job, because Kellen, coming off the year that he is, I understand how few jobs there are, but from McCarthy's standpoint, I don't know that you want your third, and which is maybe your final shot, to be that situation where you're spending a couple years just getting out of cap hell. And if you're Kellen Moore, your first chance when your stock is already pretty high, and it probably will be next year as well. I don't know. Like, I mean, Ben Johnson could have got a job last year if he wanted to, but he stuck around, and then he got, the job that I think was one of the best in the cycle this year. So I think Kellen could have maybe done something similar to that, but that is a little surprising to me. And I asked Steven this after the press conference about Kellen, if this whole thing was a timing situation, in terms of, I wonder if the Eagles were one and done in the playoffs, or, out in the second round, if Kellen had a chance with the Cowboys. I still have doubts about that. I still think they probably would have, they're fine with Schottenheimer, but I do wonder what an alternate reality like that would have looked like.
The only thing I'll say about Kellen taking that job, why it would make sense to me, is just because from the perspective of, you can't compare him to Ben Johnson, because nobody thinks of his offenses like that. Like, I mean, just think of, they just won the Super Bowl, and nobody's talking about his offense like they talk about Ben Johnson's, and the Lions never got close to winning a Super Bowl. So I don't think he has that type of reputation right now around the league. And I also think that for the last couple of years, he's wanted to be a head coach. And it's almost like the Dan Quinn thing. Like, ultimately, do you think Dan Quinn's whole hope after he got fired from the Falcons was, man, if I can ever get that Commander's job one day, hell, I'll just do whatever I can to get that. I mean, it gets to a point too where you also got to be like, all right, well, there's like a momentum behind your name too. You got to kind of strike when the iron's hot. And so maybe that's, too, where Kellen's like, if I don't take this right now, I might never get another NFL head coaching. He probably feels comfortable. He'll always get a shot in college, if he wants that. But for the pros, he might have felt like, man, if I don't take this right now, I don't know. I'm not guaranteed to get one next year or the year after that. I mean, honestly, we can just tie it into the Cowboys. I mean, he could just look at Brian Schottenheimer's, career, where there was definitely times where it looked like he would be in line. And the next thing you know, it's like you're just trying to stay on staffs and hoping that another day comes where you get a chance to be a head coach. So you have to be kind of careful with picking and choosing like that too, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Micah, I mean, Sunday mornings are always weird. Like Sunday morning before the Super Bowl, we're going to have insiders dumping off all kinds of news. You're going to get one guy saying, hey, man, Debo, you can go get him if you want him. 49ers are going to dangle him out there on the trade market. Aaron Rodgers, not going to be going back to the Jets, and him and Devontae Adams probably not going to be back with the Jets. And then all of a sudden you get a little story on the NFL Network from, about Micah Parsons using quotes that Steven gave back in December. Which that always drives me a little nuts, because I was like, did anything new really develop here or not? But it's Micah, and we should talk about it. The Cowboys, the story, the report being the Cowboys are at least looking into, like, do we want to have that much money tied up in three players, Dak, CD, and Micah? Is there anything new here, or are we just kind of getting some buzz out because we got to fill a big pregame show?
Yeah. So, there has been something when that report came out back in December that you're talking about. There has been something that changed. There's the Luka Doncic trade. So yeah, go ahead and trade Micah Parsons.
Come on.
I mean, see what might happen. See how fans might feel about this. Just, hey, why not? See what you can get for him. I don't believe this at all. I don't believe that. I will be not as stunned as the Luka trade, but I'll be very stunned if Micah Parsons in the next 5 years is playing for a team that's not the Dallas Cowboys. They can put this stuff out, and that's fine. As long as Jerry Jones is alive, that would be a shocker to me. It would, honestly, to me, that would be the most surprising Jerry move in over a decade.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said Jerry, because I'm in the same boat. Now, if Jerry's not in the mix for any reason, then it's kind of on the table. But as long as Jerry's in the mix, I don't see it.
Okay, you were talking a little bit earlier about getting aggressive. If Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland, and I realize making numbers work here is going to be Very, very difficult to do, but it's possible. Talk about moving the needle. Talk about really making a big change. Is that something you'd like for the Cowboys to at least look at?
Absolutely. But it would go right in the same box as trading Micah Parsons. Biggest surprise of the last decade, at least, if they did a move like that. And it's not even about the salary cap. It's just about they don't even make bold moves like that anymore. I mean, the only one in the last decade, I would say, is that during that bye week when they traded a first for Amari Cooper. I mean, that's like, just because you look at the Cowboys track record, they needed a receiver at that time. But them needing a receiver at that time by Cowboys over the last decade, you'd be like, yeah, they traded a third for, whatever, whoever Jonathan Mingo was at that time, but to trade their one for Amari Cooper, a team that really doesn't do those type of moves. That was for them. That was one of the few Eagles type moves they've made over the last decade. So yeah, absolutely. Myles Garrett, Cooper Kupp, any of these names like this, but I'll believe those when I see it. Cause I still don't believe that while they say at the at the Brian Schottenheimer press conference that, Steven's like, these are things we got to think about, and it makes you feel like, hey, maybe this is the biggest time where maybe they really are thinking about doing business a little differently in the offseason. And then the Eagles win. So it starts getting in your head. You're like, yep, this is finally going to. But I got about 15, 20 years that I could say that they're probably not doing much, but go ahead. Probably not. I'll say 10. I'll say 10. We'll go back to 2013-ish, 2012. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the Amari thing even was an overcorrection move. Like that was something where they didn't do anything in the offseason, and it had just Allen Hurns and Tavon Austin and those guys and Gallup as a rookie. And so it was kind of an overcorrection. Whereas like doing Myles Garrett now, like you already have a Micah Parsons in place and you already have some talent there. So it's not even like you're trying to just get something. It would be like, that would be absolutely shocking if they did, which I always find it funny. I think I texted John this right when I saw the odds for it. It's just like somehow the Cowboys are just like at the top of the odds, and I get Vegas knows a lot and stuff, but I don't know if they know something that we don't, but I don't know if they've been watching Cowboys football for the last 10 years.
No, they just obviously Cowboys have the biggest fan base, so they're going to have a lot of people putting money involved, and so it's in their best interest to have the Cowboys probably a good 5 slots higher than they probably should be in any of those type of things, because that's been going on for the longest time. I mean, heck, I just remember going back to the Chris Johnsons and people like that would become available, and whenever that they first started sending out those sportsbook emails and stuff like that, the Cowboys are always super high on any of these Darrelle Revis, whatever. And they're just like, that's not happening. Von Miller, any of that stuff. If Myles Garrett was like, I'm all in on the Myles Garrett thing, if they could make that work, because he's just a phenomenal player, but it would really be a perfect fit if that was like a defensive tackle. But what'll happen is the Cowboys will eventually get something done with Micah, and maybe they get something done with Osa, and that'll be their well, look at what we did. We look at how much money we just spent on Osa and Micah, and try and sell that as their thing. I will say it is funny too, because I tweeted during the game something about how it must be fun to be a fan of a team has an aggressive front office, and just seems like that they're always doing everything possible to build their roster up and improve their roster. And I got it. I expected 5 or 6 comments about well, this is the stuff you need to be grilling Jerry about. Okay. Yep. No, we never ask him any of this stuff. And if we just start getting even more riety about it, he's going to change his ways. He's got a whole track record of saying, if we just keep asking about it, he's going to completely be like, you know what? These guys are right. I'm going to be more aggressive right now. He's so dug in on the way that he's building the roster, because it's the Jerry Jones way, that you think that he even gives an F what I say or what Saad says or Todd Archer or Clarence Hill. It makes me laugh. It entertains me that people think that we're this powerful, but we're just I don't think you really know how Jerry Jones operates. So there's people that are way more qualified than us, making way more money than us in his front office, that you don't think they're telling him these things. And he's still no, this is the way that we're going to do it. I mean, yeah, right. What are we doing here?
Yeah. And by the way, because you guys have mentioned or John just mentioned about the time frame of when it really started getting super conservative. Just because, John, you mentioned Darrelle Revis and odds and stuff, I was thinking Nnamdi Asomugha was a guy that they were right there with the Eagles when he was a free agent, and they were trying to get him, and that was 2011. So they were still kind of in the mix and trying to go for it. So I think your 2013 timeline is probably like right on the mark there, because it was right after Nnamdi and Mo Claiborne and all that stuff where things.
And I'll give them credit. They got a better player at that time when they got Brandon Carr. They did spend the money on Brandon Carr, and Brandon Carr. Now at the time, I don't think anybody would have thought Brandon Carr was the better player between him and Nnamdi Asomugha, but Nnamdi Asomugha clearly fell off after that. But that's just another example of, even back then at that time, you had them swinging on the Vince Youngs and the Nnamdi Asamoahs and the Eagles. I don't know. I just don't remember all these bad years that they've been just digging it out of the mud to try and get it back. All this, you're going to pay for it later on if you keep making those. When have they paid for it? What have they had in the last 10 years? Have they had like maybe one of those like 4 or 5 win seasons, if that? I just feel like every year they're 9-10 wins or above. Like, where is this? Oh, they're going to be paying for it in cap hell. I'm waiting. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, but where are they on the Forbes list?
That's a good point.
Where
I don't know, keep winning these Super Bowls, they're going to be climbing up there pretty quick.
On the Forbes list. And do optics matter? Ask the Mavs. Okay, AFC. I want to do our season picks. I just want to. We all got. You guys look at that. All of you picked Buffalo besides me. I thought Miami would sneak in. And let's see. John and Kent got Baltimore. Then we did really good in the South, the AFC West, the NFC East, the Texans, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and nailed it. So decent, decent job picking divisions right there. It looks like John went 5-3, Sod went 5-3,
5-3 with a reverse jinx. Because there was no doubt in my mind. I was very confident the Lions would win the North, but if you run back the tape on that, I was definitely picking Green Bay on purpose as a reverse jinx.
The problem is all 4 of us picked the Cowboys to make the playoffs, and you see our Cowboys preseason predictions here. Everyone but Kent picked them to be 10-7, and Kent picked them to go 9-8, and didn't quite work out there. So that hurts, but that's all right. Going then, yes, it's hard. The MVP, none of us really thought, Saquon would be the MVP of the league, so that's the whole thing too. It gets really easy to be like, well, the Cowboys should have got Saquon. It's like, man, if anyone knew it was going to go down like that or close to like that, yeah, of course.
Wait, why is the AFC coach Jim Harbaugh in red? Who was a better AFC coach?
Well, you know what? This is where I messed up. The way they do these NFL awards honors, they don't separate it by NFC, AFC very often.
But I'm in real time I'm thinking of this right now. Like, who was a better AFC coach or who would have been more fitting for that award than him? There probably is somebody. I'm just not thinking of it. Because when I think of coach of the year, it's all NFC guys. It was going to be Dan Campbell.
O'Connell won.
And then what's it called? Who was the other one? I was just thinking about this.
Sirianni.
Sirianni could have been in there for sure, but there was one other coach I was trying to think of. Who was it? Yes, that was it.
You know what about Sean Payton?
Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn.
There you go. Yep, that was it.
Sean Payton, maybe in the AFC, would be a guy I could throw out there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, there really is nobody in the AFC. I'm looking at the standings right now, and there's just, it would
probably be between Harbaugh and Payton, just because they got teams to playoffs that. Yeah, I don't think most people thought that those teams would go to the playoffs, I guess.
Rookie of the year, I picked Marvin Harrison, and you guys picked Caleb Williams. That's for NFC rookie. It ended up going to Jaden Daniels, of course. Thanksgiving halftime show for the Cowboys. It was Laney Wilson. So it looks like John picked Creed, Sod picked Morgan Wallen, Kent picked Zach Bryan. I went with Jelly Roll, and the Jelly Roll did pop out, but he didn't get a point.
Ooh, that is right. Yeah.
He pops out everywhere. It doesn't really matter. You could go run an errand right now and go run.
Can anybody get enough of Jelly Roll and Snoop? And then for them to show up at NFL honors and dressed as players. The fans just got every single thing they wanted.
Dude, I had to send off.
Snoop even mentioned it about how overexposed he is.
Yeah, that's funny coming from Snoop.
When did he mention it, Sod?
NFL honors.
I'm not even joking when I say this. I'm not trying to. I had it on because obviously at Darren Woodson.
Yeah.
A good 75% of it. It's kind of almost been how I've become watching games. I watch so much sports with the TV muted now. I'm not interested in what so many people are saying. Like, there's a lot of people being critical of the Super Bowl. Like, bro, I just don't. It gets to a point where I'm just like, I can't do this right now. I just can't listen to this.
There's a lot of noise out there, man.
Trying to make it sound like, oh, if this happens and this happens in the second half, that this game's going to be different. Like trying to keep the viewer hung in there. I'm good. I'm good.
No shit. I had to send a package off to someone the other day. So I went to the post office, walk in, jelly rolls in there. I think he got escorted out of the Mavs game last night for holding the fire.
Wait. Back this up. You saw him in person?
You can't miss him. He's everywhere.
And you didn't get a picture with him?
No, man. I just figured I was running into him again next week.
All right. God, that's surprising.
You can't get away from the guy. Super Bowl halftime show is Kendrick Lamar. John went with Lil Wayne. Saw Dua Lipa. Kent NSYNC, and I picked Miley. So, yeah, we all struck out there, but more on Kendrick in a minute. And then Super Bowl, as you can see, 3 of us did pick the Chiefs. I think John had Baltimore sneaking in there. And then we had San Francisco and Detroit in the NFC. Just kind of funny how the season goes. And I did have one Super Bowl. My Super Bowl pick was KC over Philly. So,
wow.
You don't get a consolation point for that. Looking at our Cowboys season predictions, like week by week, your winner is Sod and Kent, 13-4. I went 12-5. John went 11-6.
On that 11-6, I feel like I might have picked the Cowboys 3 times.
Let's see. Just once, actually, on one of those losses. Yeah. Yeah, it's just tough. You didn't really know what the season was going to turn into. It became pretty clear by the bye week what we were staring at. but
just look at that thing. The fact that they got just destroyed at home by the Saints.
That one hurts. Unbelievable.
So stunning to me.
Dude, the Cliff Kubiak crowd was ready to give that guy 7 jobs. They're like, he can run every offense.
Including the one in Dallas.
Man. So there's your season predictions from the One Star Cowboys podcast. Love doing that. Halftime show was fun. Did you guys enjoy that?
I enjoyed the halftime show, and I enjoyed all the people that didn't enjoy that halftime show. It's one like during games, I'll spend some time on Twitter, just actually on Twitter as opposed to just tweeting and getting off. And just the outrage over Kendrick was just. It was fun. It was fun to watch. I actually searched his name on Twitter just to read some of the outrage. So I had fun on both counts.
I thought it was fine. My only issue is just I'm not a big fan of Super Bowl halftime shows when they do slow songs. I just don't think it's the right venue for it. I just want to hear your loudest, most upbeat bangers.
Yeah.
And he's obviously got a lot of those that he left out. So, I love the way he ended the show, and I liked how he had Samuel L. Jackson in there. But I love hip hop music, but like I don't know, like even the concerts I've been to from like when I was younger, like I loved DMX. I went to my favorite concert I've ever been to was the Up in Smoke tour that's when Eminem was like first coming up, but it brought back Dre with Snoop, and they did all of their older hits, like everything that from Doggy Style and The Chronic and all that. And so that's my favorite concert, but there was a lot of stuff going on. What I'm getting to is just sometimes it's just tough for someone with just a microphone walking around to really bring the energy that you get from a band, or let's say a singer that is dancing and doing a bunch of other stuff. And so when you're talking about 125, 130 million people watching, I just think it's in your best interest to do as many bangers as possible that are upbeat, because there's going to be a lot of people that they really don't care for you. And if they really don't care for you, they're not going to be super interested in your slow song. And that's certainly not just him. There's been the only Super Bowl I've been at was the one where Lady Gaga performed, and she did a couple of slower songs on the piano. And I know some people like that, but I just feel like Super Bowl halftime, it needs to be like something like your best upbeat stuff.
Yeah, and I also think Kendrick, personally, like I don't think I would ever pick him for a headliner at a Super Bowl. I just don't think the venue suits him. I think he's great as as someone to come out and join you and just perform Not Like Us and do a little something like that. But I wouldn't choose him to headline a Super Bowl. Like I'm more in the camp where I'd rather see Bruno Mars perform at a Super Bowl than Kendrick Lamar. And that's not to say I like Bruno better. I just think Bruno fits the venue, fits the vibe a little bit better than Kendrick does.
Yeah.
And the other thing is Kendrick has always been a very layered artist. Like you have to know that, okay, why Uncle Sam or why Samuel L. Jackson was out there. You have to know the whole thing with Serena and the Crip Walk and like, to John's point, the common folk won't know a lot of that stuff, to be honest,
and won't care. And won't care. That's the other key part of it. And won't care.
Yeah, and to be honest, a lot of that stuff, even it didn't hit me while I was watching it.
I completely agree with like the tying in stuff with Drake's ex-girlfriends. Not gonna lie, don't care. Don't care. Like, it's like, whatever. Okay, cool. Like, it's not like, I don't know. I just don't look at it as like, oh my God, he roasted him. Like, okay, yeah. But he's been roasting him for the last year. That song has been
killed
the
him.
number one hit. Like, I don't get like where people are just, he got him this time. Like, he's been getting them all year, 365 days. I don't know, him winning that 700 Grammys he just won off of it. I mean, believe me, like, he's been getting, so that whole part of it, I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's cool or whatever. But it's kind of like, even that storyline is kind of like old to me.
Hip hop is a tough genre to pull off in that setting.
Yeah,
for sure. But
look at Dre and Snoop in California.
Yeah,
they needed to bring out so many different people. Even they were like, well, we better bring out Kendrick and 50 Cent and all that, you know.
And but here's a couple things I want to say is amazing. A great bit to start out on a car with an elevator where it looks like you have 100 people piling out of a car.
I did like that. Yeah,
wonderful bit to start it off.
Yeah,
and then Kendrick Lamar has had an incredible career, right? Like, dude, this is a Hall of Fame type career if we were talking about it in sports terms. But that song is now bigger than him. And, you know, like sometimes you have one thing that might overshadow what you've done. OJ would be an example, but maybe not in a positive way. But like, if you've got one thing that you've done that actually absolutely overshadows everything else you've done, that song is that. And it's because of the story and all of it that goes behind it that a lot of people don't care about. A lot of people might not have known about.
Even without the story, that thing is a banger. That thing would have been still. It might not have been topping the charts for as long as it did and dominated all summer, but it still would have been an elite song. It still would have been his most popular song because everything about it is just, it's easy to dance to listen to, the words. I mean, maybe you don't want to be yelling out some of the words, but. Depending on the crowd you're around, but I mean, that's a hit song. Whether he does it or somebody else does, it was going to be a huge hit. But it adds the layers to it because of the meaning behind it. Obviously,
the art of the tease is what got me. This is, again, I don't think it's like a top 10 halftime show, but I did think it was really good because to tease it and then slow it down and bring out SZA and then come back to it, and the whole crowd. I mean, I got chills. The whole crowd just starts. They knew, and that's how. I mean, dude, every year I go to the Super Bowl party with it's at my buddy Cash's house, and you know, there's a lot of people there who are older, and
who I'm sure they just knew SZA's entire catalog.
It's a lot of white people too. Let's just be honest here. I mean, I heard a couple comments like I would have chose Joni Mitchell. I heard someone say that, you know, like there's.
Excuse me, what?
I've never heard of it. A lot of like asking like, who is this again? You know, things like that.
You know why I didn't pick Kendrick when we did the picks is because usually a lot of times these people that have been doing halftime shows have been people that aren't already on the map and they're trying to like bring their catalog back, bring things back a little bit. He was so on the map with that song that I didn't think that he would want to do it. Not that the Super Bowl wouldn't want him, but that he wouldn't want to. Because a lot of times you see people who have been out for a little bit and all of a sudden their tracks are coming back to the top because of the Super Bowl. So that was one reason why I didn't think that he would do it.
Well, if you were familiar with the Super Bowl in Arlington, the Black Eyed Peas were certainly in their prime. Okay. So they weren't trying to make a comeback. They were in it.
Yeah. Well, it's also right now it is
Creed also for the halftime show of Thanksgiving was absolutely in it.
In their prime.
Now they are making a comeback. But they were absolutely in it at that time.
Right now, though, it's who's tight with Jay-Z. If you're not tight with Jay-Z, you don't have a chance. So that's who it's gonna be. Kent, I know you have thoughts. Your screen name on here is Kendrick Lamar. So let's throw it over to K. Garrison.
K. Garrison. That's a good one. I like that, KT. I thought it was great. I can understand if you don't follow Kendrick or you're not a Kendrick fan, not enjoying it, but if you do follow Kendrick and you are a Kendrick fan, it was great. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I loved how he it was really in line with his music videos. It, just the style of how it was photographed and everything, and the dancers, and just the whole thought process behind it was really on brand for Kendrick. So yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it.
And it just shows you how Kent is into the art of it, because I can't even tell you the last music video I watched.
Well, let me tell you this.
I highly recommend watching Kendrick's videos. They're very good.
And if you go watch any Taylor Swift video, you will find that it's a State Farm ad that comes up. And that
I honestly don't think I've ever seen a Taylor Swift music video.
I'm not asking you to do the work on this, but just let me know if you think it's interesting that it's always State Farm ads when you watch a Taylor Swift music video.
I'm going to tell you the last time. I'm going to look this up right now. When did that when did that Otis song come out?
Otis?
Yeah.
Otis Redding?
No, Kanye and
Kanye,
Jay-Z.
Kanye's
obviously, but we're talking about
who gave him his login back?
Hold on. 2011, that Jay-Z, Kanye,
doing?
Otis. That's the last time I remember like music videos still being like, oh damn, like that was like a big deal when that video came out. What's up?
You're just not on the pulse.
I'm not on the pulse.
Videos.
What station would they be on? MTV? Because I'm pretty sure they're showing anything Rob Dyrdek is doing on there on a loop. So YouTube, I don't know where I would be seeing
no
these.
one watches. No one gets their music videos from TV.
Yeah,
it's all online these days.
Why would I waste my time watching a music video? Like it just like there just isn't like. This is the way I always like using. I'll send you some Kendrick videos. Please don't.
I'll see if your reaction is.
This is my comp. This is the comp I make on all this type of stuff. You think that MASH got all these great ratings because it was just such an amazing show? No, it was the only thing that was on, so we were forced to watch it. Happy Days, whatever. I can go on forever. I've gotten in arguments with people about this all the time. So when MTV was banging with music videos, whether it's like 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s, like that was such a big thing. That was also at a time where if you did have the internet, you had to go to like a room to go onto a computer. Now that we have this thing in our hands that we can watch whatever we want, whenever we want, like you can just watch stuff that you want to watch all the time. Like you're entertained by whatever you like. There's so much stuff that's out there that I just can't see myself going like, let me go through this 7-8 minute video, unless it's great, obviously but I don't even get the sense that the artists anymore put the time into their videos that they were doing in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, because I don't think they look at it like that.
Totally disagree. There's some great stuff out there.
You think that they're putting as much time in and work as they were in like the 80s and 90s?
There's not the budgets that go into
right.
Like
okay,
they used to.
That's fair.
But they totally put a lot of thought into it. It's just a different thing now. It's just all online. It's just all YouTube.
I remember coming up, especially when YouTube was just getting going, which makes me sound ancient, but like watching like Michael Jackson Thriller and all that stuff, like those are the iconic ones. But no, in recent times I haven't watched.
I'm literally trying to think of like what's been like the most popular music video of like the last 10 years. Like we're just like, well, everybody saw that music video. There's got to be something.
This Is America. The All Right.
Oh, that's a good one.
From Kendrick,
I'll give you that one.
The Beyonce one where they're at the Louvre. There's a bunch of good ones.
This isn't 10 years. This is 15 years back, but Party Rock Anthem and all that stuff was, that was really big. I know that
Kanye,
maybe that was more
Kanye had a bunch back in
Gangnam Style.
Glory days.
I didn't listen to pop music from like 07 to 15. I didn't listen to any pop music. I didn't know what existed.
By the way, if we're watching music videos and you want to go watch one, go watch the Gangnam Style music video. It's trippy as hell. It's a really weird one.
Yeah. I think he's coming back with a new K-pop show.
All right. So yeah, I'll give you that one for sure, Kent. So that
remember
I don't know when the video came. I don't know when the video came out.
Giving away all the money.
I don't know when the video came out for This Is America, but that was definitely one for sure. They said it released in 2018, so I don't know, 2019 or whatever. So I'll give you that for sure. I do remember that one was a big deal for sure. But I just think of the popularity of like Taylor Swift and even like, let's say like Post Malone and stuff like that. And I don't think at all of like, oh man, do you remember that video? That was so whatever,
I mean,
I also felt that way, by the way.
Fans would.
Also, because we're talking about the Super Bowl and everything, I just highly disappointed, and like I didn't think there was really that many good commercials at all. Like that used to be such a big thing, and it was just so like Not only that, but like even the ones that I thought were really thoughtful, I was like, I'm pretty sure I saw this like last week.
Well, yeah, because they release them all now to maximize value, and they can upcharge a little more on that. See, we'll get this out on YouTube, and we'll get more views and all that.
You didn't see the Kendrick one where his face was morphing into all the celebrities, John?
I didn't catch.
I think I saw it. Yeah. But I just don't remember it being like, like where you would do a whole TRL show ranking these things every week. It was,
God,
music videos were so big, man.
Nostalgia is so good, dude. I think they should try to bring something like that back, and it wouldn't.
That used to be everything, man. And I'm not saying that they don't obviously still have some impact. I'm just saying they're nowhere near what they used to be. Yeah. That TRL show, like anybody who was anybody would go on there. And you think about that now, you're like, who would ever do that?
Because that was all there was, like you said earlier.
Exactly. It's the mash
Not
effect.
because it was good. It's because it was all that was on, right?
Yeah, but they're also
you do have the freedom to go seek out other stuff. It has opened the door to like a lot of creativity, which is really cool.
Well, boys, good to be back. Season's over. We'll reconnoiter. We'll get it going. We got some free agency coming up soon.
Spell that.
RECONOITER.
Okay.
I'm not a bad speller, dude. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I would have a lot of cool things.
You want me to use it in a sentence?
A few things. I don't know if I spelled that right or not, but I'm pretty good at spelling. For Assad and John and Kent, check out all their work on The Athletic, of course. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. And we will, we'll be back soon. We'll probably come back next week because we still need to talk about some free agency. Who do the Cowboys need to bring back? Should they stay? Should they go? Some things like that. And who knows? It's Cowboys land. There's always noise somewhere. So we'll be here for you if you need anything. Please like, follow, subscribe, all the things. Give us a 5-star rating if you would, and share it on your social media platforms. We always appreciate that. And thank you for listening to the One Star Cowboys podcast. We love you.
Not gonna lie, don't care.
For over a century, Johnny Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereaux Golf, Johnny Walker introduces the Johnny Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereaux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnnywalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly.